It's time for another Out of Bounds Rewind with Bo Bounds on ESPN 105.9, The Zone.
Why was Arch Manning bumped from the number one spot on your ESPN 300, Luke's?
So it's a great question. It's one I've answered about 700 times in the last 10 days. and I'm glad to do it again for you and your listeners. It's a little bit of a long-winded answer, and I think when you hear it, you'll understand a little bit more as to why. You know, we really took our time this past spring and summer going back over the last 2 to 3 years of information gathering on all of, not just quarterbacks, but particularly quarterbacks, all of the prospects, and whether or not they either played as a sophomore, played as a freshman, or played sparingly, not because of their skill set, but because of COVID. We went through almost a 2.5-year cycle, Bo, where there are some kids, I'll give you a prime example, Eli Holstein, that committed to Alabama. He's been able to play one full season as a starter because of the pandemic. So he missed significant time. We had Malachi Nelson, who hasn't played quite as much because he was in the state of California. Okay, so you start to go through and you can see it's a very, very strong recruiting class at the quarterback position, but you also didn't have the normal sample sizes, whether it was on film or during camps and combines. Because remember, whether it was Under Armour camps, whether it was the Elite 11, whether it was on-campus performance, those were all canceled. There were no places for those kids to go to perform. In the state of Louisiana, which is where Arch Manning is, they didn't have very many, if any, restrictions. He was able to play 3 full seasons and was also able to, at times, get on college campuses for some camps. And then all of a sudden, we kind of started gathering and putting all the information together. We just realized we had a lot more information on the guys that we didn't have before. And we kind of knew, we knew that it was debatable whether Arch was number one. I can tell you right now, I told our staff, I said, listen, if you took 5 or 6 different guys, Jackson Arnold, Dante Moore, Malachi Nelson, Jaden Rashada, just take them and throw them up against the wall. I think they're all so talented that if we would have had Dante Moore number one, and we would have had Malachi Nelson at 5, and we would have had Arch Manning at 7, I would have been fine with that. If we would have had Jackson Arnold at 8 and Arch Manning at 12, I would have been fine with that. That's how good and I think deep the quarterback class is. So we got through the camp and combine cycle, got through this latest Elite 11 cycle, because we have access to all the film of all the reps that those kids are taking. And then on top of it, and I'm not knocking Arch Manning here, but he made a choice not to attend camps and combines. He made a choice not to attend the Elite 11 for whatever reason. And it's, again, you can view it however you want to. I'm of the belief, Bo, that I think it would have helped him to attend those camps and combines because he's already under such scrutiny, fair or unfair, that's the reality of the situation that he's in, that you end up being more scrutinized, I think, publicly when those types of events are going on and you're not involved in them. I think it would have helped him to be involved in those types of events. I think it would have taken some pressure off of him. But he didn't do that, and that's fine. But that's kind of a long-winded way to give you an answer. It's really more about information gathering and how interrupted the cycle was over the last 2.5, 3 years.
Tom Luginbill on the Yuengling Lager guest line talking Arch Manning and this 2023 class that I'm looking here at the ESPN 300 and Lugs, I mean, what he's, I think, laying out for us is, man, they love a lot of the quarterbacks in this class. And this goes to where what we've been talking to Tom about, who was a Power 5 QB, I guess the last 5 years we've had on, is they're allowed to do more things. They're coached at a younger age, so we're getting, a deeper, better, more refined player. Now, why do you think they decided – why do you think the Arch Manning camp decided not to do any of the camps and combines, Tom?
Maybe because they felt it would have the opportunity to turn into too much of a media circus and too much of a frenzy and not have the focus be about
Makes
football or the event as a whole and have it just be about him. And maybe that was something they were concerned about, to where it would kind of take away from maybe what the event was supposed to be about. And I think that's one of the reasons why, too, he chose to perform in some camp settings with some schools where it was a little bit more private, and it was a little bit more closed off. That would just be my opinion.
Okay. All right. So he's no longer number one, but he's still in the top tier. What?
Yeah. I mean, let me say this to you, Bo. I take issue with when people say, "Oh, well, if his last name was Johnson, his last name was Smith, he wouldn't even be ranked." That's not fair, nor is it true. It's really not. The kid is very, very talented. Is he playing against the level of competition that some other guys are? No. Has he played as good as maybe you want him to in some of their bigger games or in the playoffs? He didn't happen to do that last year. So I think there's going to be a lot of scrutiny on him for this coming fall, particularly if they're a playoff caliber team and how they perform late in the playoffs. I think a lot of people want to see if he's able to elevate the roster. We'll see. But I think it's very, very unfair to say, well, if his last name wasn't Manning, he would. I mean, obviously he's very, very talented.
Don't miss one moment of the Out of Bounds Show with Bo Bounds. Weekdays, 7 a.m. till 10 a.m. on ESPN 105.9. The Zone.